YouTube, man? It's your boy Architect Nice in the building, and we is back again with another video. Now, granted, with all of the moves that Jackson State has been making this entire offseason, the question has to be asked, like, is Jackson State the next HBCU dynasty to be scared of? And I think that's a great question, because there has been a lot of great HBCU dynasties. So this video is a list of the top 10 best HBCU football dynasties of all time. So at number 10, we have the 1976 and the 1982 South Carolina State Bulldogs. They claimed 4 HBCU titles out of those 7 years. They went 64, 14, and 2. Had a 2-2-1 FCS playoff record, and they got 8 NFL players out of their dynasty. They ended up winning the championship in 76 and 77. Then a few years later, won it back-to-back in 81 and 82. At number 9, I had the 1943 through 1949 Morgan State Bears. They won 4 championships out of 7 years, had a 41-8-1 record, had an NFL Hall of Famer, Lynn Forward, out of those 7 years. They ended up winning the championship in 1943, 44, 46, and 49. During their last season in 1949, they outscored opponents 226-32. They only allowed more than 7 points once all year in 1949. At number 8, I got the 1982 through 1984 Tennessee State Tigers. They won 3 HBCU championships all those 3 years, had a 29-3-2 record, beat Chattanooga in Eastern Illinois in 1982, and the University of Louisville in 1984. And they also got 4 NFL players out of the dynasty, including Richard Dent, who's an NFL Hall of Famer. Number 7, I got the 1977 to 1979 Florida A&M Rattlers. They won 2 HBCU titles in 3 years, including the first FCS title game ever. Had a 30-5 record between the 3 years. He beat UMass in 1978, which was the first FCS title game ever. And they also beat the University of Miami in 1979. Granted, they only won 2 HBCU titles in 3 years. But the fact that they even won the FCS National Championship game speaks volume to how good Florida A&M team really was.
Score of the afternoon, and Florida A&M's Rattlers have won the national championship 35-28, and Rudy Hubbard is given the ride that he has hoped for the most.
Don't you worry, this ain't the last time Florida A&M is on this list. At number 6, I have the 1970 through 1973 Tennessee State Tigers, winning 3 championships out of the 4 years. Beat UL Lafayette in 1970, beat McNeese State in 1971, beat Drake University in 1972, and beat the University of Middle Tennessee in 1973. Crazy how from 1971 to 1974, Tennessee State had 19 players get drafted in the NFL, including 8 players drafted in the first 2 rounds. Number 5, I got the 2015 to 2019 North Carolina A&T Aggies, winning 4 championships in 5 years, having a 50-10 record. They beat Kent State in 2016, beat UNC Charlotte in 2017, they beat East Carolina and Jacksonville State in 2018, and beat Elon University in 2019. Now, what's crazy about this run is that North Carolina A&T ain't even in the MEAC no more. They done moved up all the way to the Big South Conference. But my question is, if they win the championship, do their dynasty run continue?
64-44 the final score. For Tiffany, Roddy, Dusty, Jay, and our entire gang, I'm Mark Jones. Right now we're going to send it to the studio for College Football Scoreboard.
I think their run is still continuing, right? And number 4, I have the 1948 to 1950 Southern Jaguars. They won 3 championships in a row, had a 32-0-2 record. So get this right, their defense scratch that. Their team was so dominant. In 1948, they outscored their opponents. Lord. They outscored their opponents 395 to 35 with 8 shutouts. In 1949, they outscored their opponents 405 to 65. And in the championship game, they beat Xavier University 87 to nothing. 87 to nothing. And in 1950, they outscored their opponents 276 to 26 with 7 shutouts. And you know what's crazy about that? The 2 out of the 3 years, Xavier University was in the championship game and lost to them every time. At number 3, I got the 1983 to 1992 Central State. They won 7 championships out of 10 years, including 5 in a row between 1986 to 1990. They went 103, 17, and 2 in that 10-year span. Had a 3-4 Division II playoff record and an 11-4 NAIA playoff record, including a national championship in 1990 and 1992. They beat Liberty University and Texas State in 1983. They beat Townsend in 1986. They beat Central Arkansas and Gardner-Webb in 1992. Now keep in mind, this was a Division II team that eventually moved to the NAIA. So they also beat Division I HBCU teams as well. They beat Morgan State and Tennessee State in 1990, beat Alabama A&M in Howard in 1991, and beat Alabama State and Morgan State in 1992. And granted, Central State ain't just beat them. They outscored them by at least 40 points every single one of those years. At number 2, I got the 1992 to 1977 Grambling University. Winning 4 titles in 6 years, had a 60-13 record, beat Hawaii in Nevada in 1972, beat Long Beach State and Delaware University in 1973, beat Hawaii and Oregon State in 1975, beat Hawaii again in 1976, and they beat Temple University in 1977. Now, in this time frame, this was probably the most talented that an HBCU team has ever been. It had Sammy White, who played in the NFL for 10 years. It had Gary Johnson, who played 11 years. James Hunter, who was a first-round pick, ended up playing 7 years. Dwight Scares, who played for 8 years. Had Charlie Smith, who ended up playing 8 years. And of course, they had that dog at quarterback in Doug Williams. You know, we all know his history.
This is history in the making. Most valuable player of Super Bowl 22 is quarterback Doug Williams of the Washington Redskins. First black quarterback to start the Super Bowl, the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
They won the championship in 72, 74, 76, and 77. They also won it again in 1980. And at number 1, we have the 1957 through 1962 Florida A&M. They won 4 titles in 6 years, had a 54-4 record, won the Small College National Championship in 1962, which back then it was equivalent to the FCS Championship game. Y'all want to talk about dominance? So in 1957, they went undefeated and ended up winning the championship. 1959 season, their first 4 opponents, they outscored them 212 to 6. They scored over 50 points 4 times, including their first game when they scored over 70 points. In 1960, they outscored their opponents 475 to 73, including 5 shutouts. It got so bad that season for a lot of teams. They ended up beating Bethune-Cookman 97 to nothing. In 1961, they went undefeated again, and they outscored their opponents 503 to 33. They had 6 shutouts, and they never scored under 40 points outside of 2 games. Florida A&M scored under 40 points twice the entire season. And in 1962, they went 9-1. They ended up losing the championship game against Jackson State, but their team was still dominant during the regular season, with 4 shutouts and scoring over 50 points 5 times. And for them to only have 2 NFL players come out of that dynasty is just absolute crazy. Now, I don't think Jackson State is gonna be anywhere near close to how Florida A&M used to be. I can say that they potentially possibly have the most talented HBCU team. I wouldn't say ever, but probably top 5. So the question has to be asked, does Jackson State have a chance to become that next HBCU dynasty? Who knows? We'll see, but Deion Sanders is definitely on the right track. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, man. It's your boy Architect Nice, man. We out of here.